Hey guys, Angus here, got another Airsoft gun review for you guys today. Today we're going to be taking a look at a pretty cool product. This is the HFC CO2 Airsoft Sniper Rifle, and if you're interested in picking it up after you watch this video, there'll be a link down below in the description to airsoftStation.com where you can pick it up for about $140. So certainly an affordable little gas bolt-action rifle here for you, and is it worth it? Well, let's go ahead and get right into this review. As always, let's start off this review by going over the gun's packaging. As you can see, the box is just black and white with a large picture of the rifle as well as its technical name. Now when you open up the box, you'll find that everything is packaged decently well inside some black, kind of styrofoam, but not really. Inside the box, you'll have two pieces of paperwork, your gun's operation manual, as well as a small little packet detailing how to install your CO2. This particular part, as well as some of the manual as well, is very poorly translated. Then you'll have a small, easy access pour spout bottle of about 1,000.2 gram BBs, your standard 90 round speed loader, a small little plastic bag containing various tools for CO2 installation, one 25 round magazine, and of course, your HFC CO2 Airsoft Sniper Rifle itself. Now out of the box, this gun feels rather solid. A lot of that due to its pretty solid external construction. The majority of the weapon is composed of an ABS plastic, but it doesn't feel cheap whatsoever. It's pretty solid. In fact, pretty darn good quality as well. The whole weapon has a nice smooth feel to it. It feels very comfortable when you're shouldering it. And talking about those plastic pieces here, basically the whole base or body of the rifle, the stock and the body and hand grip down here are composed of the plastic component. You also do have a plastic trigger guard as well as plastic sling mounts on the gun. The butt pad here is composed of a solid rubber. There's no serration on the back to aid in gripping or comfort, but still it's a pretty comfortable weapon to shoulder. Basically, everything else on this replica is constructed of metal. That includes your whole entire outer barrel as well as your front sight. Something to note is that the orange tip is made of a cheaper quality plastic. Your top 20mm rail is metal, your bolt is metal, your safety is metal, your trigger is metal. So basically everything besides the base of the gun itself is constructed of metal, which is pretty solid. And overall this weapon is actually relatively light, weighing in maybe 6 or 7 pounds. So it's not big and clunky and heavy. You'll have no trouble maneuvering if you're trying to play a sniper role in a game with this thing. As far as internal systems go, your whole bolt's metal as well as a good portion of the internals of this thing. Seeing as how it is powered by CO2, it's got to have metal internals to channel the gas. Speaking of the CO2 system here, a big part of it is obviously installing your CO2, and since that paper is not very well translated, let's go ahead and show you how to put the CO2 into your gun. It's actually a very simple process. Alright, now talking CO2 installation, your first step would be to flick this tab on the left side of the rifle into the up position like so. Next, you'll want to go down to the trigger guard and pull downward on this piece. This is the piston stopper and we'll pull it out of the bolt. Once that's been completed, you can go ahead and actually slide your entire bolt out of the HFC CO2 rifle. Now once the bolt's removed, you actually want to separate the pieces. Simply go ahead and start turning, and as you can see, it will actually unscrew into two halves. The section we are concerned about being located down here. Now once you've set aside the actual bolt half of this whole setup here, you'd simply slide this cylinder out, and this is where your CO2 would be housed. You'd use the included tool to unscrew this end here, and once that's been unscrewed, simply drop your 12 gram CO2 cartridge right in like so, and then go to start tightening this back inward. Once you've tightened it far enough, you will eventually hear that traditional hiss, letting you know the seal has been broken on the CO2. Now once that's screwed in, reverse the process. Drop this back down into that part of the bolt, and then screw the bolt back together. With the bolt back in one solid piece, slide it backward into the gun, push the piston stopper back upward, like so, and flick that switch back into its original position. And voila, just like that, the CO2 is installed inside your bolt, inside your sniper rifle, and you can go ahead and use it. It's overall a very simple installation that after the first couple times, you'll really get used to, and it'll be just like that. I can certainly see you actually changing the CO2 in the field, provided you're not in a heavy fire situation. Now let's come back to the bolt here for a second, seeing as how this is a central piece on your bolt-action airsoft sniper rifle. This is how you cock the gun, very obviously, if you handled any other bolt-action airsoft replicas. This is the same exact concept, nothing different that it's gas. A little disappointed with some of it's semi-automatic. Personally, I'm a more fan of the bolt-action anyway. The bolt's relatively easy to grip. You'd simply pick it up, lock it back like so, push it forward, and clack it down. And once that's done, obviously the weapon is cocked and capable of firing. I didn't really have any complaints with the bolt whatsoever, despite the fact that this gun is firing around 600 feet per second. A lot of this due to the gas. It's very easy to pull back the bolt. There's no difficulty there. I'm sure a younger airsofter could do that. I had a couple instances where the bolt handle kind of got stuck and therefore it didn't cock all the way. So if that ever happens, just make sure this is locked down in position, as it does require a little extra force to get it down there. Otherwise though, the bolt's a smooth, easy pull. Staying in the same area of the gun for just a little bit longer, let's talk about another key feature, that being your safety. It's similar to that found in a lot of the other bolt-action airsoft replicas out there, and it's just this small sort of lever right behind the bolt handle. When it's pushed all the way towards the front of the gun and on the engraved letter F, obviously the weapon's capable of firing. If you were to flip it back so that it's on the engraved letter S and facing the shooter, then the weapon's unsafe and you can't pull the trigger. Overall, it's a nice safety, nothing really different about it whatsoever. It's in a position where you might accidentally knock it onto safe or fire when you're cocking the bolt back, but it requires a little bit of force to move, so I doubt that's going to happen. Now located above the bolt system, obviously this sniper rifle does have a 20mm rail there for you to add, obviously a scope. If you're going to pick this thing up, it doesn't come with a scope, so certainly please get one so you can actually make use of it as a legitimate airsoft sniper rifle out there. Don't be trying to no scope like you do in your video games. It's not like you can just put a button. You actually have to aim, so pick up a scope. The 20mm rail will fit your standard 20mm airsoft scopes or optics, so certainly go ahead and make use of it, and it's great that they include it with it. You don't have to buy any extra scope mount or anything like that. The gun does actually come with a front sight though. It's very simple. All it really is just a piece of plastic attached to the metal outer barrel. It's not adjustable. It's just kind of a raised sight post that you use as a loose way of aiming. If you didn't have a scope, it'd get the job done, but I certainly would recommend you make use of that rail and pick up a scope for this replica. Well, let's go ahead and talk about another key feature of this rifle, and that would be your weapon's magazine. In order to eject the magazine, which is stored on the underside of the weapon, simply push in this button here. At that point, you'll hear a click and the mag will release, and you've actually got to pull it out, so don't expect it to drop and lose it. Now the included magazine is just a 25 round holding piece of plastic, probably similar to those you've seen on some of those cheaper spring bolt action rifles you may have owned as a younger airsofter, and it works the exact same way. Basically, you just take the magazine out. You've got this hole up top that you take that included speed loader and push your BBs into. Again, it takes 25 rounds. Something nice to note about this magazine is, unlike L96 mags, which happens to be the sniper I run, you don't need any fancy tip on your speed loader to load this thing up. Another nice bit is that this feeds down to the last BB, so you actually get the full 25 rounds out of the mag. Overall, really no feeding issues with the magazine unless it wasn't locked into the gun. Now that being said, avoid feeding issues by making sure when you put the mag in that it actually clicks and locks into place. Now the rifle's hop-up unit is an external, easy to access, easy to adjust little unit that's located on the left side of the outer barrel just in front of the whole bolt assembly. It's a very simple piece. Basically you slide it back and forth in order to adjust your hop-up. Obviously when it's pushed more towards the front of the gun, you'll be turning your hop-up down, and if you were to slide it back towards the shooter of the weapon, you'd be increasing the hop. Overall, I found this hop up to be decent. You know, it got the BBs farther down there and a little bit more accurate, but I still noticed the BBs were dropping a little bit towards the end of the shots as opposed to flowing and continuing a little bit farther. Overall though, it's very easy to access, no fancy tools needed here with this hop up unit. Alright, and with that last little bit there about this gun's external hop-up unit, I think we can really get into the final conclusion of this review, because this really is a very simple gun, and that's kind of what I like about it. It's so simple, there really isn't too much to complain about whatsoever on it. A couple external tidbits that are a little annoying. You know, you got very large seams on the top and the bottom of the base of the gun, and also you have a very large Made in Taiwan engraved into the right side of the base or body of the replica here. Another thing to whine about, I suppose, would be that the magazine, you saw it there actually in the portion that I was talking about. It sometimes tends to get stuck and kind of wiggle its way free a little bit. So you got to take that into consideration. If ever your gun suddenly starts misfeeding in the field, it's because the magazine isn't pushed in all the way. Otherwise though, everything with this replica is very simple. You've got the easy to install CO2 that'll come to you eventually, just like that. The bolt is very smooth, easy pull, the whole operation's simple. Solid safety, solid feeding on the magazine, as well as a good capacity, an easy to access external hop-up unit, and overall, a nice little rail up here that you really should get a scope for. So, It's a pretty simple gun. It's got all the basic features you'd find in a lot of your other bolt action replicas out there, and overall I think it's good for what you're paying of $140. If you're looking to kind of damper in the gas sniper rifles a little bit, kind of dabble, see if you like them or not, this might be a good one to pick up because it gives you that ability to try out and see if you like it without spending a big budget. My prediction, this will probably break down over time because it is a cheaper model, but it's still good for practice and it is a lot of fun. Feels pretty solid and comfortable as well. Nice little beginner weapon or intermediate depending on what you want to consider it. So overall, this has been Deathcore Airsoft's review of the HFC CO2 Airsoft Sniper Rifle, and it really isn't a bad gun. It's so simple, I really do like it. So thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe.